Hello and welcome to the Alchemy Academy, episode 3. Today we'll be doing some discussion about alchemy within the animal kingdom. I will be giving some of my thoughts, some of my theories regarding this. Now, when it comes to alchemy within the animal kingdom, I haven't been able to source very many materials in old texts um, regarding it. And there could be a number of reasons for this. It could be that it was being done, but it wasn't being written about. Or it could be that it simply wasn't being done very often. And when it does, it wasn't being written about very much. I mean, I have seen one document. I can't remember what it was, but it describes the putrefaction of a bird within a hermetically sealed vessel, and then at a constant temperature, and after a certain period of time, the bird transmuting, if you will, into a snake. Now, to me, that sounds allegorical, but there could have been an experiment being conducted that that was how the philosopher viewed it when it came to the spiritual aspect of the experiment itself. There was another old text that I had come across one time, probably in the mid 2000s, but the text itself was a very old document from the Middle Ages in which an alchemist describes the imbibition of human bodily fluids into cow manure, I believe it was, which was then enclosed in a vessel and kept at a stable temperature for an allotted period of time that I can't remember. After which, um, a small person came out of the vessel and he fed it on blood and milk until it grew, but it always remained small. And after another period of time, it died. Now, now this second one that I mentioned, I'm assuming that it also was allegorical or was written by some crazy guy. Either way, the narrative of it was pretty interesting to say the least, and I hope one day I come across it again so I can add it to my collection of old texts. Most notable of the examples of alchemy within the animal kingdom would have to be definitely the homunculus and the chimeras, but in my opinion, those were all allegorical and some symbolism. But I would like to go further into depth with the homunculus, but we'll be doing that in a later episode. This episode is just an overview of alchemy within the animal kingdom, but homunculus is definitely one of my favorite things, topics rather, about alchemy as a whole. So I would like to dedicate an entire episode to that. It'll probably be fairly long because I do have a lot of source material for that, but I just wanted to briefly mention it in this episode as an example of what would be considered alchemy within the animal kingdom. I think one of the main reasons that this subject isn't discussed a lot or probably even being attempted a lot is just the grossness factor. You know, if you think about a lot of the processes that we put through, that we use on minerals and plant material, if you were to replicate those processes on an animal, a carcass, they'd be pretty gross. I mean, like, think about like um, an extraction using alcohol, like you would for a tincture. And if instead of putting, say, chamomile or nettle in there, you were to put a bird in there, or you know, or the extraction of the alcohol of a plant, through fermentation. I mean, fermenting a carcass sounds pretty gross. Not to mention the health hazards involved in those processes. I mean, it could be potentially fairly toxic. and lead somebody to become sick, or even kill them potentially. And let's not forget, the elephant in the room, and that would be allegations of animal cruelty. Now, I personally do not condone the killing of an animal for the sole purpose of its use in alchemy or alchemy experiments. Um, but in today's day and age, you could get your material from any grocery store or meat market for that matter. So that wouldn't be the case. It just all depends on the principles and morals of the individual alchemist in question. And not all um, alchemy within the animal kingdom would require the killing of an animal per se. You have things like milk, fur, um, antlers, things like that. Things that you could get from the animal kingdom without hurting of an animal or a person in any way. That actually reminds me of something I read on a forum a few years back, where an alchemist was conducting an experiment where he opened up a chicken egg. He made a small hole in the shell, and he imbibed it with some of his blood that he had extracted from himself. And then he patched the egg up. He then put this egg in some kind of liquid suspension and maintained it at a constant temperature. And which sounds like a lot of the old texts. Um, well, the thing was that he became so involved in this experiment and in this process that he began to have dreams about it. And he claims that he had a dream where he was screaming, and he woke up and he was so disturbed by it that he decided to call the experiment off, and so he destroyed the egg itself. But when he did, he found he found that the inside of the egg had coagulated into a waxy substance. Now, whether this was the egg putrefying, or whether it was because of the constant temperature slowly cooking the egg, um, I don't know. But what I think the lesson that I learned from that story there was that that's another reason that I think a lot of people don't become involved in alchemy within the animal kingdom, is because of the disturbingness of it. You know, you're working with life itself, and it's pretty macabre if you really think about it. As opposed to making medicines out of plant material, which is pretty holistic and pretty. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Whereas working with carcasses and bones is, a little bit more disturbing to some, a little bit gross, but definitely interesting. It's something that hasn't been written a lot about. It's something that, experimentation and knowledge is, like I've said before, is one of the ultimate goals of alchemy itself. So, um, a couple of experiments that I have in mind is that I will be doing soon, and I will be talking about the results on the podcast at some point. Is next time that I get some chicken, uh, I plan on keeping the bones and cleaning them, and doing some experimentation on them, um, like seeing if they will dissolve in vinegar to try to extract some of the constituents there, and also to calcinate them and try to extract the salt if there is indeed salt in them at all. And I will be talking about the results at some point. This has been episode 3 of the Alchemy Academy podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.